Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're going to jump in this week and look at part 2 of the curved vignette tutorial. I've done a lot of the painting initially, just the black, and I'll just kind of show you what it looks like. I also painted brown up top, so when we do put the moss up there, if it were to bleed through or you see through some of the grass, it'll look like dirt instead of just white foam, so that's why that's painted like that. But everything else is just painted a very flat black. You've seen me do that before. The sidewalk is painted, you know, and ready to be glued down. So today we're going to take care of painting everything else, getting it to look like stonework, getting the sidewalk to look like a sidewalk, and then we're going to put some road down. And I haven't really determined what type of road I'm going to use yet, but I think I'm going to use the peel-off sticky non-skid tape for the road on this particular piece. I like the way that looks, especially if you dirty it up a little bit, it looks pretty good. And so we'll try to figure out how that goes on. And then once that goes on, we'll hot glue the sidewalk down, hot glue the curb down. And then once that's done, we're ready to start decorating this with some moss. So that's what we're gonna try to get through today in this tutorial. So without further ado, let's go over the paints that we're going to need, and then we'll start painting. Okay, like always with the paints, and in order to make this sidewalk and the brickwork or the stonework look realistic, we're gonna use 3 types of paint. And you guys have seen me do this before, but I'll repeat it here in this tutorial so you have it in a more recent video, and that way you remember. So the first one is a dark gray, and this is just Craft Smart paint. You can buy at any hobby store. And so Michael's, I think, in particular, or Joann's or wherever. Dark gray. The next one that I like using, and this was from Hobby Lobby, but any lighter gray, you can kind of see the contrast will work. I use what's called Rainy Day Gray, and I just like this one. I can remember the name of it. They sell it, it's readily available. It's a lighter gray. And then the last one we'll use, and that's sort of a highlight, is the just normal white Craft Smart paint. No fancy, no off color, just plain white. This will be more of a dry brush. The black, obviously the flat black went on first. That's the key of getting everything to look like stonework. The flat black goes on first, that's done. Then we'll put a pretty heavy coat of the dark gray, a lighter, more dry brushed coat of the Rainy Day Gray, and then an incredibly light dry brush of the white. And that will give it the highlights and finish it off. We'll put some extra white in certain areas that we want to bring out some highlights, like you know, crags and cracks in the sidewalk and things like that. You'll see how we do that as we get to that part. But those are the paints that we're going to primarily be using today. So with that, let me readjust the camera and we'll start painting. Okay, so I've got everything repositioned, and we're gonna use the gray paint. We're gonna use quite a bit of this in this overall project today. And then for brushes, you've got different types to use. I'm gonna try this one first. I may switch to this one to get a little quicker coverage. But we're gonna start with this top piece here. Load up our brush and just start painting. I usually try to start on the back side first, just in case it goes south for some reason, but this should be pretty easy. Okay, so that's how that's gonna look. Not bad. And we'll move on to the bigger piece. Okay, so everything now is painted in the first coat of the dark gray. We'll let that dry for a second, and then we'll come back with the rainy day gray and put that on. Okay, so I've cleaned the brush out. I've got the rainy day gray poured into the palette here. And then this is dry enough now to just start to more of a dry brush the lighter gray onto here. And you'll see almost immediately what that looks like. So again, I always start on the back, a little less conspicuous there. So just more of a dry brush. Okay, we'll let that dry, and then we'll be ready to dry brush the white on. Okay, I've set this back up so you can kind of see what it's starting to look like. I've got the white in the on the palette here. I've cleaned the brush out again, and so we're ready to start. And I think we're really gonna highlight the stairs first. And so in order to do that, kind of get just a little bit of paint and really gonna highlight the stairs just like this for now. Okay, so it's starting to kind of look like that. That's the highlight that we're looking for on there. Okay, I think we're done with the painting and the highlighting. Everything looks pretty good, not too bad. And so now we're ready to kind of affix the road down. So we're gonna work on that. So I'll be right back. Okay, so the painting is essentially done. You saw the 3 coats go on. You saw the dark gray, the rainy day gray, and then the light dry brush of the white to add the accents to the top piece, the middle piece, the sidewalk, and the curb. So all the painting is done. I'm pretty satisfied with the way that turned out. So now we're gonna move our attention to the road. And I said I think I'm gonna use the non-skid tape, and this is it. It's very clean, and we'll dirty that up in the detailing process. But unfortunately, because of the curve, one piece is not going to work. So we're gonna have to butt 2 pieces together. And I think once the backing's off, you won't really be able to see the seam too much. I mean, we're probably gonna see some of it, and that's unfortunate. If I had a huge piece of this paper, and maybe they make this tape, and maybe they make some for, you know, bigger steps or something like that, that would be perfect to put on here. Unfortunately, I don't have that. And so I want to make sure that I cover up a little bit underneath the sidewalk, and then obviously underneath where the curb is going to go. And so in order to do that, you'll see I've cut a couple of pieces already to kind of line this up. And so let's zoom down into that, and I'll show you how we're going to put that on. Okay, so I just used some normal scissors. Don't judge, these are my wife's scissors. These are not my scissors, but they were close. So anyway, I've kind of put these out to where I'm gonna be able to cover up a little bit of the sidewalk and a little bit of where the curb is gonna go. I think this white line here will disappear once the white backing is off of the road. And so in order to line it up right, I want to take a Sharpie. Now, again, this is going to be underneath. You're not going to be able to see this. Otherwise, I would not use silver. But I'm just going to kind of set this down here and kind of trace out where I need this road to be placed, or at least close to where I need this road to be placed. Okay, that should do it. And then obviously this one will butt right up against that, so we only need 1 line. So this will be piece number 2. This will be piece number 1. You can see the line there, or I can see the line. And so let's peel this off and start this process. Okay, that piece is down, and now we're just going to do the same thing and butt this up again. I'm going to double check and just to make sure that it's going to cover most of the road, and it is. That's where that's coming off barely. That's going to barely cover that up and barely cover that one up. So we're pretty good on this one. So again, the same thing here. See if we can start this. Definitely are going to see a little bit of overlap. Okay, well, you definitely can see a seam there, but sort of is what it is. Once it gets a little more dirty, I think we'll be okay. So now then, I've got to turn this over and use a blade to kind of cut this excess off. So let me do that. Okay, I'm back and I've got a cutting mat So I'm gonna set that down on top. And then this is a brand new knife. You want something very, very sharp. And then you're simply going to go right along the edge here. Just kind of put this down. Why is it? Okay. And got a little foam we'll have to paint, but that looks pretty good. Just like that. Same thing on this side. Okay, so got the road texture on, and again, got to put a little bit of paint on there. And now let's see how this lines up with everything. Something like this. Okay, so there is most of the road, and then this curved piece will come around something like this. And so we're sitting pretty good with the road like that. Okay, so with that, I think we're gonna get the glue gun and start gluing this sidewalk down into place, gluing the curb into place, and then we'll be ready to put some moss down on this piece here. And at that point, actually, before we do the moss, we're gonna have to do the sidewalks leading up to the houses. So I'll show you how we're gonna do that as well. So let's get the hot glue gun and we'll go from there. Okay, we're back. I've got the glue gun plugged in. I brought out some tacky glue. We're gonna use a mix of tacky glue and hot glue to put this matting in place. You can see I've got some cut here and some here, and then we've got to cut some here as well. And the way we're going to do that is just simply measure back as far as we think we need, and that's probably going to be somewhere around in here. So we'll just simply make a cut right here, right here, right here. They've got the little lines on them, and so it's easy to see where you're cutting. You just simply cut right on the line of the bricks, and it really is pretty simple at that point. You just keep cutting right on that line, and there you go. And then, same thing here. So we're going to be going about that far back. That's a little too wide, but we want to cover it up with grass. So I'm going to leave it about that wide and then glue that whole thing down, and then we'll just cover this up with grass where we don't want to see the sidewalk, if that makes sense. And actually, since that's so wide, I think I will take off one row here. And so again, just line up the lines here and cut straight up, following the brick lines. And you'll get it certainly straight enough to accomplish what you're looking for. So, a little bit better, and so that will be glued down here, just about like that. Okay, and then we'll do another one for this side. So we'll do the same length and straight up that line. Okay, so that'll work for over here. And so those now are all cut and will be glued down. And it doesn't matter how far they go back because you're going to have a house sitting there anyway. So now we're going to make sure this is where we want it and start gluing this down. And so we're going to use quite a bit of glue on this because we do not want this bad boy to come back up. We want this to be permanent forever. Okay, and now we're going to place this where we want it. Okay, so the sidewalk now is glued in place. That is not going anywhere. We've got the road in place. Now we'll do the curb. So we've got to sort of measure out what we're going to need. That looks about right. So let's take this off here. Okay. And so now we know what we're working with. So let's put a little mark here. A little mark here, and that's where we'll line that up. Okay, so okay, so that's how the curb is going to go on. And so now we've got our road. It's not perfect, but it's okay. And then this will all be covered up in grass. So this will be painted brown as well. I didn't want to paint it here because I wasn't sure exactly where to go. So this will all be painted brown. So we'll have to do that here in a moment, or at least most of it will be painted in brown. Okay, so now we got to do these, and so I'm going to do hot glue and tacky glue, I think. So here I changed my mind and only decided to use tacky glue, as I know that it's going to stick better and I don't have to worry about the hot glue. So we're just going to go through all of this with tacky glue and I know it'll work out just fine. Okay, I think that's gonna do it for the work today. So let me kind of put this together and zoom in and show you what it's gonna look like. Okay, so here is the piece as we have it. Now, obviously we're gonna need to detail the ends of these. We're gonna need to touch up some paint here, and that's all fine. That's part of the detail process. Obviously we're gonna have to paint this brown. I'll do that off camera, and then touch up some black areas that need to be touched up. But as you see, the sidewalk and the pathways leading up to the homes, they look okay. And then they'll look a lot better once the moss is down, and you'll see a whole big difference there. And then obviously you can see how the sidewalk looks. Doesn't look too awful bad. Pretty pleased with the way that has turned out. And then if you step back and look, you can see how it's starting to sort of come together and getting ready to add a lot more detail. So there is a closer look at all the stuff we've done today. Hopefully that helps you in trying to determine how to do a curved piece and gives you another look at how that's going to look. Okay, well, hopefully that gives you a better idea of how this is all coming together. It's looking pretty good. I'm not too disappointed with it. I wish we didn't have the seam in the road, but I think once we get some more detail and some kind of dirty the road up a little bit, then I think it'll look a little more, it'll look a little better than it does right now. The details are in the small things that are not complete yet, so those are still coming. So in next week's tutorial, we're going to look at putting the moss on and getting all of that sprayed down, glued on, glue water mixture, the isopropyl alcohol, the whole 9 yards that we've done before. But I want to do it again in this one tutorial so you can see how to carve a sidewalk, paint a sidewalk, do a curved piece, do a curb, do everything all together. So we're going to do the whole thing next week as well with putting the moss down. Once the moss down is down and dried, we'll add and I think I'm going to put moss over the whole thing, and so that way I'm not going to trace around the house. So whatever house you have that you want to put on here, as long as there's room, you can put it up there. There's no space for a particular house, and the house will just sit right on top of the moss. Probably the easiest way to do that. So that's coming next, and then we'll finalize the other details, and that part will be done. Then we're going to go into how do we wire lights, street lights. We're going to put 4 street lights onto this vignette. So how are we going to take what comes in the box, cut them apart, and then resolder everything into a longer, better cord for us to be able to use and hide underneath this vignette. I'll show you how to do that in another part of the tutorial. So at least 2 or 3 more parts to this one coming. You got that to look forward to. Hey, and as always, if you've liked this tutorial, make sure you click on the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. It helps me, and it certainly helps to motivate me to give more content and push more content out. We're also going to start looking at Trick or Treat Lane. That's going to be one of the next review series that we do. And then in next video, I've got a sort of surprise for you. I spent a little bit of money, got some additional pieces that I normally didn't buy, but had this crazy idea. So I'll share that with you next time. So until then, take care of yourselves, or we'll talk to you again real soon.